Hi, I'm Ed Armstrong from the United States, and I'm happy to be here with Polo doing an interview to let you know about me, and I'm learning about you. I was in my mid-early 30s, and back in the late 80s when I started in Massachusetts. I had a business, and I had some time that I could spend. And I grew up near a very famous polo club in Massachusetts. And so I sought them out and found someone that could introduce me to it and lessons and so forth. And that's how it all started. Well, there's a lot of different aspects of it, but I'll start. So, as I said, when I sought out people at Myopia Polo, there's a gentleman named Peter Poor, who we lost last year, who was someone that brought many, many people over the years into polo. So he was my intro to the sport. Well, he's a second or third generation player, a very good player, and so it was in his family, in his blood. And so, you know, people knew of him, and he knew everybody in polo. And he was a very good resource, and had horses that you could get on and play. So it was a good intro to the sport, and we remained friends until he passed. Well, Peter's program was in an indoor arena, which if you want to play polo for any length of time in New England, you've got to play indoors in the winter. So when spring came, I had heard about a club in Vermont. So I would travel up there 2.5 hours, play a truck or two, and drive back home. And then I came up there in the summer and played. They lent me horses, you know, very beginner. And it was very low goal polo, a nice atmosphere, local crowd, and so forth. So that was a good intro too. And I had another mentor there who's a Hall of Fame coach, Doc Roberts, he coached at Cornell forever, played at Cornell in the 30s. And so he was another big influence on me and how you should run a club. And so he was mentor number 2 in the sport. It wasn't a tournament. They used to have practices during the week, but then they would have a big game on Saturday with a crowd and everything else. So the first time I did that, you know, now I had gotten pretty good at hitting the ball. Now I look at the crowd, all of a sudden I can't hit the ball anymore, you know. So that was my entry into it. And, you know, I kept at it, and I got over that, but it was pretty intimidating, you know, to play with a couple of hundred people there that were paying attention, you know. Okay, I have a good friend that was working in Boston at the time, Timmy Sharma from New Delhi. And he was keeping his horses at my farm. And, you know, we got together and said, hey, why don't you come to India? So we were thinking about importing some things and this and that. And so I came over in 1990, and I landed at 5:30 in the morning, and by 9 I was on a horse stick and balling, you know, tired from the huge flight. So that's the first intro to it. It was the president's bodyguard field, and there was a little tea house in the middle and so forth. It was very nice. We went and had tea with a lot of the diplomat people that go there to ride. So it's kind of a nice intro, you know, and people were welcoming. And yeah, it was fun. I met some people during that time that are still friends now. So that's part of what I like about polo, and it's particularly what I like about international polo. Tack their own horses, they drive them in the trailer, they do all that themselves. I get there and I have 2 men working to get the horse ready. 2 grooms per person, you know. So that was, you know, and I'm used to adjusting my stirrups myself, and all of a sudden they're going to do it, and you know, it's a little bit of an adjustment. But that was unique for me, being an American, where we just do things differently, you know. I mean, there are levels of American polo players that, at a professional level, they need help like that. But the amateur person, is not familiar with that. I think Samir Suhag was way back then, and he was the best player in India for a long, long time, and I've become friendly with him. Vikram Sodhi, he's about my age, and he still plays. He goes to Hawaii, he goes to Chicago, and he plays, so he's a very active guy. Just the people around Timmy, I don't want to get their names wrong, but those two stand out, Occasionally, yeah, the Vikram and I will communicate here and there. Samir's daughter played in Manipur when I brought our U.S. team, and I've seen him at different events and times over the years. So yeah, we're acquaintances. I wouldn't say we're best buds, but we're friendly every time we see each other. So it probably varies from level to level, but I've been involved with some high goal things when I was with the U.S. Polo Association, and it's fairly similar in the fact that we all have that common passion, that common thread in our lives. So we always have something to talk about. Whether I know you or not, we could start talking about horses. We could talk about a famous game that we saw or something. So, and the concept that I work with now is it's amateurs, a lot of times younger people, although I don't really do sort of children's, but young adults and so forth. And I wrote a piece about the value of international polo, and I think it's exceptionally valuable to younger people because they see that not everybody lives like them, yet they do have this common interest that binds them. And I've seen people that I've taken places make friends from all over the world, and people are welcoming. I've been invited everywhere, and so has everybody. You know what I mean? Just yesterday, one of the French team invited me to come to Paris. And they mean it. And I've done the same. Have people come to our place. So I think it's very valuable for someone who lives sort of a sheltered life to get out and see other places. Well, in terms of arena polo, the U.S. invented the game in New York because, as I said earlier, if you want to play polo in the Northeast, you've got to play indoors. And the Army had armories in the major cities, New York being one of them. And that's where it started, the arena polo. Okay, so for the average person, it's easier to understand because the field is smaller. You can see the action. It makes sense to you. If you want to play, it's a more approachable way to play. You don't need as many horses. It's a confined space, so you're not out on a field, 10 acres, not knowing what you're doing. So it's a good intro. It also stays as a good venue for polo. It's not just for beginners, It lends itself to beginners to be easy for the factors that I mentioned. You only need a horse or two. You don't need 6, So your startup costs are less. And some people never advance beyond that, but they have an enjoyment for their whole lives. So India, I think that I've seen that dynamic change over the years because early on it was mostly Army personnel who played. They controlled the horses. They had the grounds and all that sort of thing. And over the years, there's now, the entrepreneurs, the company owners, and that sort of thing that have taken up the sport. And it's still strictly outdoor. This international thing came out of a conversation that Chaitanya and I had at my house in Massachusetts. And we just talked in general terms and, caught up like two polo guys, And so a couple of years go by and we started working on that concept. And it's been good for his club, I think. It was great for me to have another venue to bring people. And so, yeah, if there was more clubs around the country, it could be a way that they can spread the word about their club, I mean, Chaitanya he won the Arena Club of the Year, and because I think that they're now trying to celebrate that. But I think there's factions that don't want to put a lot of effort into it. And it may be a function of the fact that the IPA is a lot smaller than a USPA. So the USPA has a lot of diversity. They have people who play arena, they have people who play professional, and everywhere in between. And so for us to promote it, you need dynamic people like Robin that spreads the word, and it grows. And Chaitanya played at Purdue, and so he was familiar with it from early on. And so he's leading the charge, I think, here for people to say, hey, we could do this, and it would grow, Polo's never going to be, like the U.S., we have 5,000 plus or minus. We've had that for 20 years. It's never going to be, in my opinion, and I'm not saying I wouldn't like it to be, but in reality, I don't think there's going to be 10, 15, 20,000 members in the U.S. I just don't. Well, the first horse I had was a quarter horse named Peach. She was just easygoing, never going to be a star, but she tolerated it. And she never saw a mallet before I started sticking balling on her. So she was a good one to start with. And then as time went on, I had horses that were probably beyond what I should have been riding, but then I learned how to manage that. And that's right up there in my top reasons for playing, and the passion that goes with it is the communication between the horse and the rider. There's a lot of people say horse whisperer. I think you have to be a horse listener, and you cooperate with the horse. It's just a wonderful feeling. And it's all nonverbal. It's just your cues, and they know what you mean. They're very smart, Not that they can't misbehave, but I've had some very good horses. The first really good one I had was one called Juanita. And in our local New England circuit, if they saw that I was on Juanita, they would get on their best horse because they knew I was going to do well on it. And if I was on a weak horse, they didn't really care. But, but she elevated my game, put me into places where now I could see, oh, this is what you need to do, I had another one, Pistola, and these were both, Juanita was Chilean, professional horse. The next one was Pistola, and she was an Argentine horse that was owned by the Pony Express farm. And she was a little big for the sponsor, so I knew those guys, and he made that horse available for me at a very reasonable price. And she was wonderful too. So I had some good horses early on, especially within the context of what I was doing. I didn't need a horse that played in the Argentine Open, but it was sure nice to have one that I could communicate with. Well, it stems from that growth in my, I don't know if it's knowledge, but it's just sort of my experience that it's a two-way street. You have to listen as much as you talk, and you can't force that on the horse. So I don't know, it's life lessons in there somewhere, But, I remember seeing a person playing, and boy, the horse was like kicking back like this, and I'm like, boy, that's not a very good horse. Well, that person got on the next horse, same thing. Next horse, same thing. And now I'm like, that's not the horse's problem, you know what I mean? So you learn cooperation is you cooperate with what the horse wants, and he'll give you what you want, So no, that's probably right up there with the joy I get in bringing people to the sport in this way, If you blame the horse, you're going nowhere, And that's not to say it can't ultimately be, but if you can't gel with the horse, it's more your problem than the horse. It's a general statement, but it's true very often. I used to just watch other people and how they handled it, you know what I mean? But it's a Nacho Figueres type of guy, you know what I mean? It's this flashy type people, and there is that. But I also think that a lot of that is, hey, there's a guy that likes horses. So do I. You know what I mean? So it makes him more attractive. India is a big part of that because the friends I've made here have been supportive of. They first of all like that we will come because the U.S., for whatever reason, we still get a lot of respect around the world. And, you know, part of my job helping to choose teams is I don't want to bring anybody that's going to embarrass us. So we try to keep the level of personality and camaraderie top of mind. Next is if they can play, but it's not the first thing, you know what I mean? Because it's very important that we don't insult our hosts. I've brought a younger team to Chile. They were just as accommodating and welcoming. But the international thing, between my experiences in India with my friend, is I worked with the Polo Association, and I used to manage and organize some of the polo that they did. I used to bring college students to Argentina around the time of the Argentine Open and play with and against their counterparts in Argentina. They don't have a great collegiate program that sort of matches what we do, but it still worked out. It was a great experience for a lot of people. So Argentina was very good. When Frankie Dornack was the president, he was very welcoming and accommodating, and we always thanked him for that, you know. And then I helped manage the high goal arena events with England, the Townsend Cup in the U.S. and the Brian Morrison in England. And that was a lot of fun. You know, we made a lot of friends in England that are still friends now, and the players did the same, you know. So we're just expanding the community, and it's a good thing, you know. It's to be selfish. My niche is an international bent, if you will, and the value of that is very good. And what I've done is I've worked with the Polo Association, and I source an event like this, and I say, hey, do you think you could give us some support? And they've been very good about that, because I think I deliver a good product to them, you know what I mean? We don't embarrass them, we come back, we get some press, and everybody's good, you know? We did it in Manipur for many years until the pandemic, and that sort of killed it for a bit, but hopefully we'll get back there. And each with the same result. And I think it just gives us another quality that other people can appreciate. You want me to talk about the foundation? Okay. And along those lines, I've been involved with the American International Polo Foundation, which we call AIPF, and I'm now the president and treasurer for the last few years. And we've been trying to find our way to a new way of making our foundation well known. It was originally started just briefly as a means of raising money for the FIP teams, the American FIP. And it did that for quite some time. And then when the USPA started to become very successful with the brand, they could fund things. It was a little tougher sell to get people to donate money to a cause that was very well funded, you know. So now our shift is to promote events just like this one, where we have young professionals, young players, you know, at any age actually, at a lower level, to come, and we can raise funds to support an event like this, you know. And that's what our intention is to do, is to spread the word about the AIPF and let people know what we're doing, and they can participate, they can donate, support it however they can, you know. So that's what our mission, I mean, our mission is very much aligned with that. Well, like everybody says, you know, you have to ride before you can play. So focus on that. You know, get a good instructor that works on teaching you the quality of the horse and how to maintain that. the polo will come or it won't, but if you can't ride, it's not coming. So learn an appreciation for the horse. They're not motorcycles, you know. You can't put them in the barn after you're done and just forget about them until the next time you go. It's a big responsibility, but it's worth it.